All right. Well, hello, folks. It is Monday afternoon, 4 p.m. here in Arizona, and it is time for another live event like we do every Monday now. So we've switched to every single Monday now. We are going to be doing this live here from YouTube. So welcome on board. I see a lot of popular name. I see a lot of chatter already and a lot of questions. So we'll get to those in a minute, but I want to say hi to everyone. We have Chris. Jonathan Jackson is here. What's up? Vic Moss is here. He says, I'm finally not late. Awesome. Pilot Institute is here. Awesome. Jason is in the back room answering your questions. We have Recovery One drone. We have, there's two John Jackson. There's Jonathan Jackson and John Jackson. Look at that. We have Thorough Inspired. Thanks for being here again. Kev. We have Robert Snyder, Flight Media, James Baraka. We have Travis Cheney. We have Eat, Sleep, Drone, Repeat here quite a bit. We have William Dougherty. We have Four Props. I saw V1 Rotation as well. Yep, there he is, Independent Drone Channel. So a lot of regulars. Thank you for being here, as always. We had a busy week. I have a busy weekend. We're working on a project. If you're part of our Facebook group, you may have seen I asked for 20 volunteers to help us with this project. I got 20 volunteers in like 10 minutes. So the volunteers are closed right now. We will open up probably 100 more seats either later this week or early next week for that new project that we're working on. We have a final release date, which is going to be on February 2nd, which is a Friday. We will release this on News Update Day. I'm really excited. So we've been working hard at this, spent all weekend working on it. Can't say really much of what I did, but yeah, I'm pumped. This is gonna be super good. So who else do we have on here? Look Mom a Drone, Big Island Bum. We have Danny is here, Super 8mm. We have Soups. We have B Lee, Digital Dubuque, Christopher Campagna. Anyways, ton of people. Thanks for being here, folks. We are going to get started on the question. Vic says there is no temp in Denver at the moment. It's literally 0 degrees. 0 degrees. Yikes. Kelvin? Hope not. I learned a couple days ago that negative 40 Celsius is the same as negative 40 Fahrenheit. And either way, not good. I was talking to my parents on the phone on Skype, whatever. And they were saying that in Norway, it was negative 40 Celsius. So I looked it up to see what it was in Fahrenheit. And it turns out it's the same in Fahrenheit. So I think that's the only temperature where it's the same, which... Well, I don't know how to do the conversion in my head. I think Celsius makes more sense, but I also am very fluent in Fahrenheit these days. But I always have to look it up to see the conversion. But anyways, negative 40, no bueno. 0 Fahrenheit, no bueno. 0 Celsius, way much bueno. So, all right, let's get started with the questions because they're already piling up in here. RCH says, what gives? It's a good start. Putting remote ID module on my Mini 2 no longer under 249 grams. Yes, that is very unfortunate. But with that being said, 249 grams doesn't really do anything except for registration requirements. So if you put a module on it, it means that you're flying it under Part 107, which means that 249 grams doesn't mean anything. Now, if you're putting a module on your 249 gram drone and you're flying recreationally, then it doesn't make sense. You shouldn't, because it doesn't need to have one. Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue. John Jackson says how to properly set up for night flights if any light disturbs eye. Let me see. Wait, it just jumped. Oh, if any light disturbs the eye to darkness by 30 minutes, want a 3 statute mile strobe, also reduce the pilot's night sight. Yes, don't look at the strobe light for sure. I would say turn it on, put your hand on top of it, turn it on, and then look away, and then basically take off. But yes, it is easy to look at it and mess up your night vision. So yeah, don't have really an answer to that other than not looking directly at it, looking in the vicinity of it. What's the guidance for helicopter and drone pilots making an emergency maneuver to avoid imminent collision under 400 feet? Has there been any test to determine the best chance to avoid? Your best chance is going to be to descend, quite frankly, if you're flying a drone. If you're a helicopter pilot, your first response is likely going to be to climb. If you're below 400 feet, you're not going to be pushing on the control to descend, unless you see the drone about to hit you from up here, but that's a tough one. So the best chance to avoid would be to descend. In most cases, it's going to be very hard to judge that depth of field to see exactly where the helicopter is unless you can see them on the camera. But drones do climb faster than they descend in most cases. So in some cases, it might be better to climb, but you also don't know what the pilot is going to do of the helicopter. My guess, and I know there's some helicopter pilots from time to time in the chat, I'm not one of them, but most people would have a tendency to climb rather than descend when close to the ground. So in a helicopter. So yeah. Travis is saying, if traveling by train, how would you prepare a drone for the train trip? I would do nothing different really than just a normal trip in your car. Train travel is a lot easier than airplane travel. The batteries and everything are not as critical because there's no I would take the batteries with you in the cabin if that's what you're asking. I don't know how trains work in the US, but in France, I've done a lot of train traveling in my days, and your suitcase doesn't go underneath anywhere. They go at the entrance of the train. You drop them off, you go to find your seat, you sit down, and then you go pick them up when you leave. So in this case, I would just leave the batteries in there. Probably safer to take them with you just so nobody steals them if that's a worry. But yeah, that would be my tip. William says, if I've registered my Mini 2 for Part 107, but I choose to fly it recreationally, do I still have to use a remote ID module? No, you do not. If your drone is only registered under Part 107, then you don't need to have a remote ID module because it's not registered recreationally. Does the drone scanner app work on iOS? Yes, it does. It doesn't show my Air 3 in the app ever. So the drone scanner app does work in iOS only if you're trying to detect a drone that has Bluetooth remote ID, not Wi-Fi remote ID. So there's two ways that manufacturers can comply with remote ID. One of them is to use a Wi-Fi signal, which is what DJI does, and a lot of other manufacturers that use standard remote ID, which is integrated into the drone. Most of the module remote ID is done using Bluetooth technology. Your iOS device cannot detect Wi-Fi remote ID signal because it doesn't have the ability to scan for Wi-Fi. It's something that Apple forbids app developers from using. And so as a result, you're stuck using the app for Bluetooth. So yes, it is normal that your Air 3 would not show up on here. If you had an Android device, as much as I'm not a big fan of Android devices, you would be able to pick it up. And I know Ben is going to give me a frowny face. Okay. Craig says, when are the first round of Pilot Institute changes coming to the Airwave app? Airware, I think you mean to say. Coming up soon. I had a meeting with, I had a discussion with aloft on the first batch of changes. We have a meeting with their development team, I think either this week or next week, and then we're getting ready already for V2. V2 should include the ability to submit lens requests directly into the app, and then we've been talking about a couple other things that we want to add in there. So yeah, I'm excited about this. If I'm colorblind, red and green, would that impact my ability to pass the Part 107 test when it comes to the charts? It is going to make it more difficult for you. Yes, absolutely. We made a video about a year ago, or maybe even longer than that, on the YouTube channel. I think Jason either has done that already or he will basically give you a link to that video. It's we talk about giving you tips as a colorblind person to pass the test and to look at those charts. It is going to make it difficult, but it doesn't make it impossible. Okay, there's actually a ton of people that are, a ton of male that are colorblind. I think I want to say it's 1 in 7. It's a ridiculous number. It's actually a really high number that are colorblind. So yeah, we put those tips out there for you. Go watch the video and then use that to pass the test. There you go. Jason just linked it in there. Robert says, do you think M3T, Mavic 3 Thermal, is a good investment or waiting until the next generation? It would be a personal drone for side gig and possibly for my fire department as well. I would say the Mavic 3T is probably the best thermal drone for the money at this stage, and portable and everything. We actually have one in the studio in the office just because, and we paid for that one. There wasn't a DJI sponsor or anything. So yeah, great drone. The Autel Evo 2 Thermal is also a great version that you can get. I send requests for free registration stickers. Is there a URL for the free crumble cookies too? Ha! Contact Ben. It's Ben. Oh, sorry. I was going to give your email address. Ben will send you free cookies directly to your house using the app. He loves using the app. So once you get free cookies. So it's a two-way relationship, right? You got to get them first and then you send them back. Yep. No such thing as free crumble cookies, unfortunately. What is a cheap starter drone? The bike nerd. The biker nerd, sorry. I would say cheap. Depends on what you qualify as cheap. I would say start with a Mavic Mini 2. It's probably the cheapest drone that you can find right now as a good starter drone that is going to do everything you need to do. If you've got the budget, the Mini 3 is probably a good way to go, or a Mini 4. Is Ethan waving at me? Oh, no, you're waving at Penny. The cheap 200 Walmart drone, no, probably not, because anything that doesn't really have a GPS in it, it's going to be pretty difficult to fly. Not impossible, but most people that buy these eventually crash it. They buy another one. Now you got $400 that you spent. You could have spent $400 on the DJI drone, or Autel drone or whatever equivalent, and then get something that actually flies really well. So the Mini 2 is tried and true. It's an older one. You can find used ones, people that have upgraded to a Mini 3. If you have the budget, a Mini 3 or a Mini 4 is definitely going to do it. But as a starter drone, the Mini 2 is hard to beat, quite frankly. They also have the Mini 2 SE, which is a little bit cheaper, but I think at this stage, the difference in price, a Mini 2 would be my recommendation for anyone looking to start. What are the rules regarding sunglasses? I assume those are visual aids. I think a lot of people put sunglasses on. No, those are not visual aids. You're fine with sunglasses. They don't make your vision any better than the naked eye, although they do help with protection, but that's completely different. So no, they're not visual aids in a sense. So you're good to go with sunglasses. How can you fly a drone and get around the no flying over road and highway rules? Okay. I see videos all the time that show people flying over roads. It's don't ask, don't tell. Yes, it is very much like the military. Don't ask, don't tell. You can fly over roads and highways. You cannot fly over people and moving vehicles. It's a big difference if you think about it. If there's no one on the road, you can cross and go over the road. That's not a problem. If there are people driving, you cannot fly over people in moving vehicles. So the way that you do it is you wait for the light to turn red and then you go. If you're trying to fly over a very big highway, the only way to do it is to have a categorized drone, so category 1, 2, 3, or 4, which are very rare. So, yep, that's and yeah. As far as seeing people doing it on YouTube and social, they either don't know or don't care or both. Okay. John Quist says, "Bonjour, Greg. Bonjour. We go to Guadeloupe and Martinique for metal detecting trip. That sounds fun. Going in March. Are you familiar with their rules?" I am not familiar with their rules. They're French territories, so I would assume that French rules apply. So that's the DGAC. So you would go on their website, on the French website, and see if those islands are covered. And yeah, you need to do a little bit more research on that. But my guess would be that they're covered under French flying rules, which are partially covered by EASA. EASA is the equivalent of the FAA in Europe. Europe is kind of complicated. They have EASA, which is kind of the overall organization, and then each country in Europe has somewhat specific rules that they add to the European rules. It's a bit of a mess. How much in trouble? That's QuickCat 21MK. Says, how much trouble am I in if I launch a quad without remote ID when it's supposed to have it, hypothetically, if busted? Well, a lot of risk, quite frankly, if you get caught, because here's the deal. If you get caught, it probably means that something happened, meaning that you crashed into something or someone or broke something, and then the authorities were called and then they busted you. So they'll be going through all the things that are missing from your drone: registration, remote ID, you don't have trust, you don't have Part 107, you don't have whatever it is, and then you can get in trouble. So you can be cited, you can lose your certificate if you have one. Is it really worth it, I guess, is the question that you need to ask yourself. Not sure if you heard, there is an out-of-town anti-crime drone company that wants to monitor streets in St. Louis. Yeah, we talked about it on Friday News Update. Can they do this legally, or can local officials issue a cease and desist, which they have, by the way? So the latest on that story, if you missed it, we talked about it in News Update on Friday, this last Friday. And this gentleman in, well, I don't know if it's a gentleman, this guy in St. Louis is trying to fly drones and charge people access to the footage. There's several things that could make it illegal. I'm not saying that it is, but could make it illegal. The first one is that one of you, our students, sent me a message quoting a surveillance thing. Penny. That's the live event. Quoting the fact that surveillance is not allowed in that state, in what the heck is St. Louis? Anyways, anybody? St. Louis? I've never been there. I should know better. I'm sorry. I apologize. But anyway, in St. Louis, it's not allowed. Missouri. Thank you. So if that's the case, then this could be considered surveillance, which would be against the state laws in this case. So no bueno. And then the second thing would be FAA rules, obviously. So if you wanted to do this, you'd have to have a pilot in command that has visual line of sight and doesn't fly over people, doesn't fly over moving vehicles, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So you'd still have to follow all of these rules. Now, in addition to all of this, because it is a business, and from the sound of it, from what I've read, St. Louis would have a business license requirement. Some cities, some counties require a business license in order to do business for anything, drones or not drone. What they're saying is that this person doesn't have a business license to operate in St. Louis, which would make it illegal at that level, at the city level. So there's a lot of things in here that could make it illegal on different levels: city level, state level, FAA level, depending on how they decide to operate. Not to mention that Now, personal opinion coming. I think this gives drones a bad reputation. People don't want to be followed by drone. People don't want to be surveilled by drone. I think it's very Orwellian in a sense, 1984. So I think at the end of the day, that business has to make money. And the way they would make money is with civilians that would pay, I think it was $60 an hour to watch this footage from the drone. I just don't think it's viable from a business perspective, but who knows? So yeah, that's the way that I understand it so far. Next, place it here. Can you go over the rules for flying over people if you're flying over people from point A to point B and they are in the middle? Well, you can do that as long as you have a categorized drone. Okay? Which makes it difficult now because, and you know what? I'm going to load up my slides real quick because I always need to go look back at my cheat sheet so I make sure that I say it correctly. Because these cases, quite frankly, they're pretty rare and they're not something that happen all the time. And so, category cheat sheet right here. Okay. So, if you want to fly transitioning over humans, yes, in the category 1, yes, in the category 2, and then even including open air assembly, and then category 3, but you can transition over humans, but you cannot do it over open air assembly. So the answer is yes, if you have a categorized drone 1, 2, or 3. 4 is kind of its own little thing, so I don't worry too much about that. But yeah, that's the answer. Okay, let me go back now. I lost my window. Here, there it is. Can you talk to standard remote ID and how it applies to FPV drone built from scratch after September 16 deadline of last year? That's a great question. So if you're building a drone, if you're building a home-built drone, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to explain this. If you're building a drone and it's used under Part 107, not for recreational purposes, then technically you become a manufacturer, which means that you have to comply with standard remote ID rules, which means that you would have to have standard remote ID on your drone. The problem is, at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, there is no technology that allows us to do this. And so you would have to have a GPS chip in your controller, and that would have to talk to the remote ID technology that you put in your drone, and all of that would have to broadcast the drone location and the pilot location at all time because that's standard remote ID. So there's really no way to comply with this at the moment because of technology shortage. And so my next best thing that I would argue with the FAA if I get, pulled over, would be I put a module on top of it. This is the closest thing to available technology as it gets. I'm somewhat compliant. I'm probably not 100% compliant because it's a remote ID module, but it's not a standard remote ID. And see what they say, but that's as close as it gets. So yes, in theory, you need to comply with standard remote ID. There's not really that technology. Now, I've been talking about this with the new CEO of Flight Test and also the person in charge of FPV Freedom Coalition. His name is Dave Messina. And he's one person in charge of both of these organizations, and he's working with the FAA on this issue. So we'll see what comes out of it. I think Vic, who's in the comments, might also be involved in that discussion, but I can't remember. So it's not an easy thing right now because the technology doesn't exist. Anyways, is it common for the FAA to not respond to authorization requests to fly in zero grid? It may not be the FAA. It may actually be the tower for that specific airspace. So, Tim, it is, I wouldn't call it common, but it does happen. It depends on how much time you gave them. You need to give them several days. I would give them at least a week in order to respond. And if they're still not responsive after a week, you can email me, and then I'll get with Vic. We've talked to the FAA about this before. I haven't heard any issues lately, but tell me what airspace it is. So yes, shoot me a note if it happens after you've submitted it way ahead of time. What happens is that process goes through the tower first. So those requests get sent to the tower, and then the tower says yay or nay, and then they send it over to the FAA after that. So next, I'm thinking of taking the drone mapping course after getting my 107. Will I have to upgrade to a drone that is waypoint capable? Chuck, yes, it would be better. You can do manual flights in order to collect that data, but it's going to make it a lot more difficult over time. So if you're looking to get into mapping, maybe to get started, just do it manually and then process these images, on the computer, just to make sure that this is something you're interested in, and then eventually invest in something that can be programmed. Philip says, do you think we will ever see any DJI Mini in the FAA categorized group? So the Mini, good question. I hope. Let's put it this way. There is one, I think if you guys watch this live event on a regular basis, I talk about it all the time, but it's the Japanese version of the Mini 2, which with prop guards will qualify for flying over people because it's category 1. So this is ours right here. It's 199 grams by default. You put prop guards on it. Now this one, we haven't equipped it with remote ID because we haven't flown it since remote ID became a requirement. But unfortunately, we would have to lighten up these right here, the prop guards a little bit in order to account for the module that would go on top right here. So as far as DJI making these available, I don't think there's much appetite from any manufacturer out there to make a categorized drone because it's a US market only thing. It doesn't really apply to anything else, to any other country. So who knows? Who knows? One question. Wills. Hey, Wills. Wills is one of our oldest follower. Wills has been with us since I remember when I was back working from my house, and Wills was one of our followers. So Will says, any new PI mobile app coming? Yes, there is a new mobile app coming. Oh, let's talk about this because we found out today that Teachable has just updated their app, and you can no longer download videos offline. So if you downloaded the Teachable app in the past, don't update if you want to continue having access to downloading the content offline. We are working with a developer. I think I'm going to send him an email when we're done here. I think he submitted it to the app stores, and we are waiting for the app stores to be approved. And then we will have our own app, which will have downloads. So if you can't download content offline right now because you updated the app from Teachable, just be patient a little bit longer, and then we should have our app coming up very soon. So, and it will be a lot better than the Teachable app has ever been. It will be available on non-iOS devices, aka Android devices, and it will be a full version for iPad. In the past, we had the mobile version for iPad, so it didn't look all that great for Teachable. So yeah, that's coming up. I'm pumped about this, and I need to get a follow-up from our developer to see where it's at. I saw a great deal on an Inspire one. Is it worth buying? I'm going to say no. Even though the Inspire one is a great drone, a lot of people that have flown those, it's still their favorite drone. But at this stage, it's old technology that is going to take an X3 or an X5 lens. I don't even know about the X5, actually. I think it's an X3 only. X5, yeah. Not the X5S, just the X5. And not to mention, it's going to be difficult to find batteries going forward. Get a Mavic 3 Pro. You'll get this better image quality, I believe. You'll get 3 lenses still. in a compact form with batteries that are available. As much as I love the Inspire 1, I think if it's something that you're going to be using on a regular basis, probably not the best purchase. That's just my personal opinion. So, random not drone question. Today happens to be the 15th anniversary of US Airways 1549, aka the Miracle on the Hudson. As a pilot, do you have any thought or feeling on the event? Yes, that is, I didn't realize that. 15 years. Holy smokes, I'm getting old. This feels like it was yesterday. 15 years? Really? No way. Wow. If you had asked me how long ago it was, I would have said probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That's crazy. Anyways, I mean, the term miracle is really it. This is like something that happens that may or may never happen again. You know, you lose one engine because of a flock of birds. It's one thing. You lose two of them at the same time, just unheard of. And the fact that Sully was able to put that thing into the water, which is in itself extremely difficult, and pretty much save everyone and nobody died. And of course this was in January in the frigid water in the Hudson. Truly a miracle. So of course, a lot of training from the pilot, somebody who had stick and rudder skills from ages ago, and just really cool. It's kind of, in a sense, reminds me of what just happened in Japan, where you had the Japan airline aircraft that hit the aircraft on the runway that was on the runway. Big ball of fire. Of course, 5 people died in that aircraft, but in the airliner, nobody died. Everybody got off. 300 and some people, I think, get off. Another miracle, quite frankly. And I think a testament to the crew that was on board to get people out of that airplane, to the people that were on board who were listening to the crew, didn't decide to catch their luggage, to get out, and to the construction of the aircraft. I think it was an A350, if I remember correctly. And basically the composite construction kept the flames as long as possible away from the cockpit and from the fuselage. So just these two events to me recently have been like just crazy miracles that nobody passed on that. Okay, next. I'm putting in a few fun ones. Not sure if we already commented. Jason, correct me. Oh, that's that tells you that I'm like Ron Burgundy. I'm like Ron Burgundy, just reading the prompter. We need more blooper reels. Is that what you're saying, Ben? Oh, no, the drone guys say we need blooper reels. Yeah, we do need more blooper reels. Yeah, the problem is that I don't mess up. So blooper reels are much more difficult. Yeah, they're trying to mess me up behind the scenes to get those blooper reels, but it ain't working because I'm a professional. That's what I do. One take, just like Billy Kyle. Okay. Mini 4 Pro or refurbished Air 2S? Oh, Mini 4 Pro or refurbished? Mini 4 Pro, I would say, just because. Tough. Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor, pretty good image quality. So does the Air 2S on a smaller sensor. No, so does the Mini 4. Sorry, Mini 4. Well, that's a tough one. How about an Air 3? Probably a different price range. That's a tough one. Mini 4, very portable, sub 250. If you decide to fly outside the country, a lot of places you'll be able to fly it without too much hassle. Air 2S, you won't be able to do that. Air 2S is getting older, although it's not old. Still a lot of batteries available. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I wonder what people are saying in here. Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one. I would probably go with the Mini 4, but yep, Mini 4 has really good results in our testing, image testing. Is there a drone that can fly in snow? Technically, they can really all fly in snow. Temperature outside is going to be the issue. Most of the DJI drones are limited to like 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius, or right around that. So the problem with the snow is that it's not like a ton of humidity, but it's still some humidity that might get stuck on your lens, might get stuck in the gimbal. So yeah, you need something waterproof. The motors are fine. The motors are somewhat waterproof, but the I would be more worried about the gimbal in itself. Yeah, we've flown after it snows. We've flown a couple times when it's when it's like lightly snowing, but again, you risk the risk of having like snowflakes going into the lens, and that messes up your footage. So um, yeah, I don't know that I would recommend it necessarily, but okay. Vic says they can fly in snow once. Yeah, we do have on the Mavic 2. We have a little outfit that goes on top of it. It's a little um skin that goes, but it's like thick insulation that goes on top of it to make it waterproof. We did test that. I did test it back in the days. We were going to do a battery, not a battery, a propeller icing video, and we had done that. The footage never came out. We were going to do it again last year, and then it never happened. And by the time we were going to do it, it wasn't freezing anymore. And then this year, I hope maybe we can do it. But yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, the battery in cold temperatures might not do super well, and then the electronics in humid environment may not do so well as well. Choop, 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 choop. What else? What else do we have? Visibility in snow. Yeah, visibility could be reduced actually in snow because 3 statute mile visibility under Part 107 could be an issue for sure. Depends if it's light snow or not. Heavy snow, definitely, I definitely wouldn't do it. Somebody says, Jared says he's having trouble with the weather stuff. Yeah, the weather section is difficult. Uh, it's it's way more than you need to know as a drone pilot, but the FAA decided to include it in there. So if it were me, if I had to redo Part 107, I would do things way differently, uh, and emphasize on things that are not being emphasized on right now, and then I would simplify other things that don't need to really be all that complicated. So, but I'm not in charge, and I don't want to be in charge. Currently going through the COA course. Let's say if I get a structure fire call, what will I need to be able to fly at the scene within minutes? I'm a fireman, Part 107. So you would need to contact SGSC. I never remember what those initials stand for, but they would be able to give you immediate approval to fly in that area. You can do that literally in the truck on the way out. Now, if you're in the COA course, there is a section about this. You'd be able to SOSC. I'm sorry, SOSC. You'd be able to go and see the details in the course. By the way, the COA course is free, so if you are a public safety person and you utilize drones, I highly recommend it. It can really help you with getting special approval to fly in conditions just like this one. So SOSC. Jason just put a link in the description because that's what he does. Okay. What else? Wow, we finally went down those questions. It usually takes for about 40 minutes. That's about right to go down through all these questions. Vic says I would go with the Air 3. I agree. You know what? The Air 3, I have to say, Air 3 is probably the best bang for the buck at the moment. There's just, I cannot think of another drone at that price point that does what the Air 3 does. It's just that good. Greg for FA administrator. No way, Jose. No. Shit would get done. Can you imagine government agencies where stuff gets done? No. What else? All right, folks, keep putting the questions down here. I see a lot of chat about different topics, but What's your opinion on Autel Evo Max defense version meant for the military? I have to admit, I did not know that was a thing. What is different about it? I wonder what. I don't think we've heard about that part. Any upcoming sale expected from DJI other than refurb? DJI does sales like around Black Friday, around the New Year. I don't think there is any that usually come around. Usually when you start to see sales on previous models, it's because there's a new one that's coming up around the corner and they're starting to get rid of the inventory. We haven't seen any DJI leaks in a while. There's a new product that's supposed to come out. I think this Wednesday I got an email, but I think it's from the email, it looks like it's audio related, not drone related. So we'll see more, but yeah, no drones on the horizon that I've seen. But even if we did, we couldn't talk about it. I saw another question in here. Can you explain the different categories and their weight related? So we have AirPlay from my computer. What do I connect to? Okay, stand by. We're going to give you something here because we have high tech. What do I connect to? Okay, hold on. Let's make sure that I don't... okay, stand by. We're going to give you something. Make sure I don't share something I'm not supposed to. Because we have high tech. There you go. From our current project. Okay. So categories in a short. This is the category cheat sheet that we have in the course. But you have category 1, 2, and 3. For category 1, it's small drones, sub 250 grams or less. Category 2 and 3 is for larger drones. Now, that alone doesn't mean that it's a category 1, 2, or 3. You need more. There's a requirement for category 1 that there is no exposed rotating parts that can cause laceration. Same thing for category 2 and 3. And that's really it for category 1. There's no MOC, means of compliance, DOC, declaration of compliance. There's no label requirements, which is basically, this is a self-categorized drone. If you have a drone like this one right here that meets all these requirements, sub 250 gram, it has prop guards, then it's technically a category 1, okay? Category 2, more than 0.55 pounds, but less than 55 pounds, and no exposed rotating parts, no defect. That's something on the manufacturer that's in the regulation. And then there is what's called a foot-pound of kinetic energy limitation. And that's the equivalent of this drone or a drone in category 2 or 3 hitting someone. The effect of that damage cannot be more than the effect of an object that creates 11 foot-pound of kinetic energy. So 11 foot-pound, 25 foot-pound on the category 3, which makes it difficult because most drones that are bigger than 250 pounds, when they hit something, they're going to create more kinetic energy than that. So they would need to be equipped with more than likely a parachute or a device to slow it down as it falls. There is a requirement for all of that to be approved by the FAA via a means of compliance and a declaration of compliance. Means of compliance means that there is a method that is put in place in order to prove these things, the 11 foot-pound or 25 foot-pound of kinetic energy. There is 2 means of compliance that I'm aware of that are approved for category 2 and 3, which means that somebody holds that testing methodology that can be used to create a category 2 and 3 drone. Only one company that I know of has used that, and they got a category 3 drone approved. There's no category 2 drone approved at the moment on the FAA website. So that's the gist of it for having a drone. The reason why we don't have category 2 drones is because, like I said before, I don't think any manufacturers are interested in the R&D, the research and development, to get these drones out because they only apply to the US market. So I don't see DJI spending all that money to get all that paperwork done just to sell a small amount of drones, because you would pay extra for all this. I don't think everybody is interested in this. And DJI does mass market. They don't do niche market. So that's what I have to say. As far as limitations, sustained flights over open air assembly, sustained flights anywhere else, and then transitioning over humans. These are all requirements in here. So yeah, that's a little cheat sheet that we made. I use that quite a bit because I don't always remember them because they're so rare that I always go back to this to make sure that we're good. So we can stop sharing and yeah, go back to the questions. Let me see if we have more questions here. Jameson is saying, if teaching high school students Part 107, can you explain the best course of action? Teachers with Part 107, recreational exemption says high school would have to operate under a CBO. Yes. No. A high school... Stand by 1 second. A high school cannot operate under recreational rules. Let me just verify that. Educational users. So it says USC 44809. Stand by. Drone flown for educational and research purposes may be operated under 44809 for qualifying educational organization, which includes institution of higher learning, higher education, which high schools are not, junior ROTC, and educational program chartered by an FAA recognized CBO. So you would have to operate, I see what you're saying now. You would have to operate under a CBO in order to do this. That means that the program would have to be absorbed by the CBO as a CBO program. So yes, otherwise you can operate under Part 107, which means that the teacher would have to be Part 107 certified. They would have to act as pilot in command and supervise only one student at a time. And that's the rules. And then you would need to have other people that are Part 107 certified to help you to follow that. So yep, that's the best course of action. The CBO, quite frankly, might be the best. Take a look at Flight Test. They have a STEM program that you might be able to use. I don't know if their STEM program goes as high as high school, but it's worth looking into it. Flighttest.com, I think. Couple people joke that we should do a Don't Be That Guy video or of some sort. Some shorts. We do that every Friday. We talk about some doofus somewhere that was that guy. Yeah. Some people say we should make t-shirts also for Don't Be That Guy. I agree with that. We should make t-shirts. Okay, what else? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if we were to do that, we've kind of talked about doing the Don't Be That Guy video. We're trying not to make it too corny. Should we like act it? I'm not the best actor. Should we? I don't know. If you have ideas of how we can get that done, we kind of ran the idea around for doing some pretend Don't Be That Guy. I don't know. It's hard to do without sounding corny, silly, or even judgmental. So that's difficult. Not an easy one. Are DJI drones going to be banned in the US? No, I don't think so. All the talk that has happened is because of government ban for government people. I don't think anybody is going to be able to get them banned for everybody. But then again, I might be wrong, but I don't see it happening. Does the drone training on your website ever expire? Nope. Lifetime access. You can watch as much as you want, as long as you want, and you get updates for free as well. Is Before You Fly going away? If so, when? So Before You Fly, the app is scheduled to go away. We don't have an expiration date on that yet. The Before You Fly program on its own is supposed to be revamped and look different. So more on that soon. I don't have a when exactly, but this is why we created the Air Aware app with Aloft, who created Before You Fly for the FAA. Because the app in itself is going away, we wanted to have a replacement in place before the Before You Fly app goes away. The program, like I said, for Before You Fly, is staying, and it's going to look different with different providers from what I've been told. Okay, 450, getting there, folks. What's your opinion? The anti-DJI lobby banning just because it's Chinese? Are there ways for U.S. citizens to help battle back? I mean, you can talk to your congressman. That's really the only way to, or congresswoman. That's the only way to deal with this. As far as the ban on Chinese drones, I was thinking about that the other day. You know, I would love to get an interview with the CEO of the two American drone manufacturers right now that are pushing for the DJI ban by spending a lot of money on lobbying. I would. My first question would be, can you share with us the proof that what you're saying is what you're lobbying against is actually happening? And here, crickets. There still hasn't been any proof that DJI is doing what they are. Now, if there is, let's bring it up and then let's deal with that. But I do believe in innocent until proven guilty, even for a foreign company of Chinese origin. So that's my stance on this. I do believe there's a better way to deal with this. We can have standards for drones that can be met by anyone, regardless of country of origin. If we agree on the checklist of things that drones should be doing, then let's do that. And no, the blue list is not really the answer to that. The blue list is a ban on parts from foreign countries, and I don't think that solves it. So there has to be a list of tests of things that if the drone can pass it, then it should be good. The recent rule, the ASDA that passed in Congress, has a 2-year wait where we're basically waiting for 2 years, pretending that there is an issue with Chinese drones. Why are we waiting for 2 years? Let's just act if there's really a threat. But no, that's not what it's about. So personal opinion. Yes, DA website. I think I saw Jason put a link in here, the Drone Advocacy Alliance. And that's a good place where you can go and stay up to date with these things that are going on, and then a way to send your message to the people in charge of these bills that are proposing these bills. Any information on the ASCL certain Japanese drone? We reached out to them to get more information, to maybe even test one of the drones. We haven't heard back. The problem is with that drone, which, if you don't know, it's supposed to be a Mavic Mini competitor. Soten is apparently a Japanese version, a Japanese brand of drones. The problem is the price tag that we saw was $10,000, which doesn't make it a competitor to the Mini. It makes it a competitor to an Inspire. And so if that's the case, that's going to be tough, regardless of how good the drone is. Nobody's going to spend $10,000 on the Mini. V1 Rotation says the ban will most likely go away if there is a swing in Congress. Yeah, that's entirely possible as well. Is DJI actively countering these American lobby efforts? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But, yeah. Yes. I don't know how else to say it. Sorry. Yeah, $10,000. $10,000. Somebody says GTFO, which is Gran Turismo for others. Yeah, $10,000. I know that's kind of a price shock. Is there going to be a ban on clouds? Well, heck, I hope not. Although I think Arizona has a ban on clouds. We don't really get clouds very often. There's always the Anafi AI. You know what? The Anafi AI is definitely a contender. It's a great drone. It flies really well. We tested it. We flew it here quite a bit. I was actually very impressed. So yeah, the Anafi AI is a good drone. Okay, where are we at? 454. Where would I need to look for scheduled low-level helicopter flights, like 20, 30 feet? 20, 30 feet I don't think is a thing. Along the Oregon coast. Is all Coast Guard... the there's no schedule of helicopter flights, especially if it's the Coast Guards. And there's no way to see the Coast Guards on ADSB because they don't have ADSB. So very difficult to do off the coast. This is in Oregon. I'm guessing you said Oregon and your name is Cascade Drone Services, but in Florida, it was the same thing. Airplane would fly low altitude, especially Coast Guard, not even a mile off the coast, and then just cruise around. So very difficult to do. Vic says it's all the way down to -4 right now. Yikes. Yikes. Have you flown the Wingtra Gen 2? Yeah, we did. We flew it here. Penny, come here. Penny. Penny's going to bark. The DJI, yeah, the Wingtra Gen 2, I think it was a Gen 2 that we flew. Really cool drone with Chris. Yeah, when Chris came over, it's just cool because it takes off and then transitions to a horizontal flight afterwards, and then comes back and lands vertical like this. Very nice. Okay, is there an ADSB receiver app that I could be running when flying my drone? Oh, ADSB receiver. Yes, you can actually, if you go online, just type do it yourself ADSB receiver. They can be made for rather cheap, and there's different levels of it. But if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can absolutely build one of those. They also have them for sale. I don't remember the price tag. It's not cheap, but if you do a lot of operation, it may be something that makes sense having. Keep in mind, ADSB is not available on every single aircraft that are flown out there. So some aircraft can be flying at low altitude without ADSB. Now, if I were in charge of the FAA, you know what I would say? I would say any aircraft that's flying below 400 feet must have ADSB, except military aircraft, because they cannot broadcast their location, which is different. But still, there should be all that. What new drones are you expecting this year? Good question. I would say probably a Mavic 4, although DJI released a bazillion, 7 Mavic 3s last year. Crazy. A Mavic 4, I think a new DJI FPV. I have no data on this, by the way. I'm just making this up. A new DJI FPV, probably a new Avata, and then whatever else DJI has in stock. So we'll see. It took a long time to go from the Mavic 2 to the Mavic 3, so maybe not a Mavic 4 this year, but we'll see. UAM. Any good website to decode TFR to plain English? Oh, yikes. Let me see if TFR.gov does it. TFR.fa.gov. I thought they had a way to do it. Yeah, TFRs are difficult to read. Yeah, you know what? Go to TFR.fa.gov. That's going to be probably your best bet. This is where I go because that's straight from the horse's mouth. Let me put it in the chat here. That's what I would say. It does give you a description at the bottom of the actual TFR, so it should help. There's a little bit of short code in here, but not a ton. Okay, I think we are getting close to the end here. Vic says, do you think... No, not Vic. I saw Vic. Antique aircraft are also ADSB exempt. Yes, they are. Autel Alpha, we talked about that on Friday. It hit the FCC approval. We're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. Autel is kind of weird at releasing drones. They're not really the best at doing that. So they could be talking about it, and then we won't see the drone for another 6 months. So we'll see. Do you think the next Avata FPV will have a sub 250 battery option like the Mini 3? Not the FPV. I doubt they would do an FPV that's that light. The Avata is still pretty heavy. I think I want to say it's like 500 or 600 grams. So they're pretty far away from that. I don't know. Maybe they see a market for people that want to fly over people with remote ID and prop guards like the Avata. I think it would be a bestseller, quite frankly, if they did that. So DJI, if you're watching, I know you're not, but that would be pretty cool. Okay, folks. Oh, somebody asking if we can broadcast ADSB. You cannot. V1 rotation says you cannot legally transmit ADSB. That is correct, except if you have a Part 21 certificate approval. So, which is not 99% of people. So I would say no, you cannot transmit ADSB unless you have a special approval. Okay, folks, we are gonna stop it. It's 5 p.m. Thank you for watching. News update on Friday, live on Monday, and then after that, the next Friday, we will have the release of our new project. I'm excited. If you're in the Facebook group, look for more invitation to the special project. Probably later this week, we'll open up probably 100 more seats, and then go from there. Thanks, folks. Thanks for watching. We still have a ton of people out here, and we will see you next week.